name's Morgan Sosa. I have a PhD in computational physical chemistry from the University of Oregon. My research was in spectral analysis and Monte Carlo simulations, basically using math and code to figure out what molecules are doing. I built all of my dissertation's computational models on a $300 laptop because I was tired of waiting for the shared resources, which has kind of set the tone for how I approach infrastructure problems now. I'm the head of computational research and data infrastructure. My job is, to build up these systems that let our scientists focus on doing science and things like data storage, backups, the publishing pipeline that I'll talk about a little bit more later, all of the digital plumbing. So my goal is to have built systems that are invisible to the scientists. If I'm doing it right, they shouldn't have to think about any of it, which so far has worked. I'm not running experiments myself right now, but my work is tightly coupled with research. So right now, I'm building all of the computational infrastructure. So I need to understand the science enough to know what the data is going to look like, how it flows, what the researchers actually need day to day. So my background is in, basically computational physics, meaning that the science isn't really foreign to me. I'm very familiar with, the radical pair mechanism, singlet, triplet, fluorescence, all this kind of stuff. And so I can read the papers, I can follow the quantum mechanics discussions and understand, what the data actually means. This makes it a big difference when I'm actually designing systems because I'm not just building generic IT systems. I'm building tools specifically for scientific workflows for these scientists. I know all of the bad habits that scientists have, and I assume that they will make them and kind of build in guardrails to stop them from breaking things. One thing that I've noticed, or that I've realized during my academic journey, is that different fields will use multiple words for the same thing. So take the interaction between light and some sample. Chemists will say excited states. Physicists will talk about singlets and triplets. Biologists will talk about fluorescence response. And they're ultimately all talking about the same electrons doing the same thing. What is fascinating to me about quantum biology is that no existing field is really touching on this research. Biologists don't really know enough quantum mechanics. The physicists don't understand enough biology, but everyone kind of knows that these quantum processes are happening. I'm really excited to be working with a group of, multidisciplinary scientists who are able to look at these phenomenon without the bureaucratic overhead of a university. If we want to build up a data server, we just do that. If we want to build an instrument, we just do that. When I started at QBI, there wasn't really any research infrastructure. There was technically shared storage, there wasn't any backup system, there was no way to publish lab notebooks, nothing. So the result was that scientists kept a lot of data on their personal laptops and were sharing stuff via, Google Drive or emailing it to themselves. I know I'm guilty of that. And so I built all of this infrastructure from scratch. So that started with the physical server. I spec'd, purchased, and configured a secure file server with redundant storage, automated encrypted backups, and remote access so that the scientists can, in both LA and in Maryland, can actually work with their data. I also set this up so that the scientists just see like a drive on their computer, like a C drive or a D drive. They don't need to know kind of what's going on underneath. It just works. On top of that, I built this publishing pipeline that takes the scientists' electronic lab notebooks, which they write in a note-taking application called Obsidian, and automatically processes and publishes them as a website. This includes things like converting between file formats, optimizing images, generating the navigation, while handling all of the messy edge cases that come with real scientists writing real notes. So as of today, there are 51 pages of live research notebooks published and accessible on the website. For us, open science means publishing work as it happens, not just published end result. Our scientists' lab notebooks are live on our website. You can see their raw data, their reasoning, their daily process. We're also archiving our micropublications through DeSci nodes, so they're permanently accessible on decentralized infrastructure. The goal is that nothing sits on someone's laptop where nobody else can find it. There's always a backup plan. Well, I can't speak for all labs, but honestly, most labs are a mess. Data lives on individual laptops, maybe a shared Google Drive or institutional network if you're lucky. And when a grad student or postdoc leaves, their work often leaves with them. At QBI, everything lives on a central server with automated backups and redundant storage. Scientists write their notes in Obsidian, which automatically syncs to the server, and the pipeline publishes it automatically. The difference is that we treat data infrastructure as a first-class part of doing science, not as an afterthought. So typical journal articles are the culmination of months or years of research, which means they exist kind of as a standalone document that makes a strong claim. They're the end result of research, and they don't show the messy middle where learning actually happens. Our micropublications are more like the result of a single set of experiments, such as one that Brian recently wrote, where he looked at the fluorescence response as a function of applied magnetic field in bacterial colonies that had a gene for an engineered protein called maglev2 that was kind of made to have a high fluorescence response. In that micropublication, he gave just enough context to the project so that someone could follow the reasoning, see the data, understand what was measured and why, without needing to read like a 30-page paper beforehand. It's a snapshot of one piece of the puzzle published while the work is still happening, not years later. That way, it's more useful to other scientists working on similar problems right now. Surprisingly, not a lot. So like I mentioned before, when I joined QBI, there wasn't really anything. No server, no backup, no publishing system. And I've never built anything like this before, but I figured kids set up Minecraft servers in their bedroom that can't be fundamentally different or that different than, what we're trying to do here. So I started by prototyping everything on a $50 Raspberry Pi in my bedroom. Once I proved that the concept worked, I built the real thing for about $1,500. So this is a proper server with redundant storage, encrypted backups, remote access, the works. The original proposal from an outside consultant said that this would have cost $15,000 plus thousands of dollars a year in cloud services. And it was honestly way more complex than what we needed. We're not Google, we're not Amazon, we're not this huge organization that needs to have this, very involved DevOps process. Like, there's one dev, it's me. And so ultimately, I always think that there's a simpler way and there's a cheaper way if you're willing to learn and prototype first. The hardest part isn't actually the technology. It's understanding what the scientists actually need and building something so simple that they don't have to think about it. Everything I build, I ask, could the scientists do this without calling me? If not, then it's not done. The lab notebook showed the whole process. It's not just this polished end result. You see where a scientist tried something and if it didn't work, where they changed their reasoning, and where they're still figuring it out. That's what real science looks like. It's not a finished paper with all the answers. It's someone working through a problem. Publishing that openly makes science more accessible because it shows that researchers are humans figuring things out, not oracles handing out conclusions. Publishing that process is what makes it truly accessible, not simplifying the science, but showing that science itself is a process of learning. When someone sees a scientist struggle with the same confusion that they would have had is more inviting than any kind of dumbed down explainer. So right now, the main way outside researchers can engage is through our micropublications. So these are kind of short, focused papers that we're archiving through DeSci nodes, so they're permanently accessible and citable. It's a lower barrier than waiting for a big journal paper. Longer term, I want to build more interactive features, for example, like commenting on the lab notebooks, so that outside researchers can have conversations directly on the data where it happens. But even now, everything we publish is open. So you can see the notebooks, you can see the data, you can reach out to our team. My hope is that I can make this kind of infrastructure accessible enough so that other organizations can do something similar. Tech spaces want you to think that you have to have super specialized knowledge and you must use cloud everything. But really, all you need is some patience and a willingness to look stuff up when you're stuck. It's the same thing they were going to do. The big thing that I'm, most excited about, now that kind of the foundation is laid, is building smarter tools on top of the infrastructure we have. So things like semantic linking between notebooks so that you can trace how an idea in a single experiment connects with other results. Another one is adding in OCR, or optical character recognition, so that handwritten notes can actually become searchable. The foundation is there. The interesting part is making it do more than just store and display files.